Okay, week 7. So, week 7 is really that point where we're moving closer to the middle of the semester. And as I review work done, it seems like collectively we're actually on track for most of you. So, if you are one of those students that happen to be behind, the sooner you catch up, the better. Because it just gets harder, and you know this. Like if you maybe even if you haven't thought it, you kind of feel it from an intuitive standpoint. It's like the longer you get, the more you get behind, the harder it is to get caught up. But then you have that compounded issue of the end of the semester, right? Luckily, we have spring break in this spring semester that gives you that little bit of time to catch up. But in general, right, try to catch up as soon as you can, right? I still grade late work. It is discounted 25%, but you can still submit it. And the one thing I would say, because a couple of you have asked me about this, it's like when you're calculating, let's say your My IT Lab score, which is part of this assignment requirements, don't worry about discounting at 25%. I will do that when I post your grade. Okay, you just calculate the score based on what you got. Okay, so switching to week 7 discussion. I really appreciate this discussion because it gives you some links and some information about how to research jobs that you might be thinking that you're interested in, and thinking about them in the larger context of like where things are heading and what, because you can always, if you can think a little, or you can do enough research to see what's coming at us from a economic perspective, then you can choose things that will position you well to take advantage of those things. So that's one factor. And the other factor is, don't only look at money, look at the whole industry, how things happen, how the environments are, because there's definitely a lot to be said about that. When I moved from working in private industry as a consultant into education, like it wasn't for the money. I was taking a pay cut, but I was really looking to change the environment in which I worked. So there were other reasons that I did it. It benefited me in the long run in a lot of different ways. I still got to work on an area that I love, which is technology. And I've grown in the position, so that's great. And sometimes you just don't know, right? So there's also a big, like, if you think about, like, we're at the place now where we're approaching the 1 year of the impact of COVID-19 on our collective economy. And of course, there would be things that now looking back that would have been good to invest in, right? Remote work, if you can do it, is awesome. Not everybody can, but also how can we help? Right? What are the things that you can think about? Healthcare, of course, is a good one because people that industry is definitely always in need, right? But other ways, as an entrepreneur, you can capitalize on these types of events, even if it's just a little way away from the beginning of it. There are still so many ways that these will impact our world. So I think this is good. I really appreciate it. And if I haven't said it before, let me say it again. This course was basically created, the structure of this course was created by Brian, who you see the videos from, and I've just adopted it and given it my own spin, and do the grading, do these kinds of connections, look at the work that you do. But he really came up with this discussion board, and this one in particular I find to be really helpful. And so give it a little time, do some research at the career or careers you may be thinking of. Look at this data to understand where they're heading. So that's for that. And as I was looking today, I was also, and this is something that I hope you all do on a pretty consistent basis, which is look at the calendar, right? You can choose your different classes. You can look at the calendar to see what's due. As is normal, I just finished grading the week where you did the app and tell. And I really enjoy that because you all had some apps that I use all the time. Very popular one is YouTube, and I'm with you on that. I think YouTube could replace pretty much all of my entertainment dollar, right? Although I don't have, well, I do spend for it because honestly, I do pay for the non-advertising version of YouTube. But that's such a small number when I compare it to my internet, right? And my Xfinity cost. It's really got me thinking that maybe it's time to also drop that. Which you think about the impacts of something like that, right? When more and more people are kind of moving away from traditional media, then what are the larger telecommunications companies going to do? How do they handle this, right? So they typically then look at, well, maybe they will increase the cost of internet, which really is devastating for many of us. But more importantly, if they were to do that, but then say they're going to invest in low cost internet, I'm like totally about that. That's totally awesome. I'm willing to pay a little more to help others get access to the internet because it is such a fundamental skill. And I know I've said this before, but the internet really should be a utility. But anyway, black on that. But you all also introduced me to some new apps I will be checking out as well. Some of you use some apps that I use that I didn't think were as popular, right? Like Headspace was one that I saw several times. It was nice to see that. If you don't know Headspace, it's a way to help you manage stress, do meditation, which during these times is really helpful. So now we move on to Excel. You've already done, and by the time you get to week 7, you've already had your first Excel, and there was already a primer on Excel. And I'm just going to tell you, the more you learn about how to do formulas inside of Excel, it will benefit you beyond. And I think next week for attendance, I'll have to check this out. I actually do a little spreadsheet to help you understand your internet speed and how you can calculate that relative to like home internet versus your cell phone internet, right? And to be able to compare also your wired and your wireless. So I think that's coming next week. If not, it's coming in the week soon. So overall, now that you've gotten to week 7, and I haven't gotten, a couple of you have already been working on your week 6, your first hands-on lab assignment, which is awesome. I do also want to give a shout out again to the Discord. It hasn't been real active. It may be as you move into that first lab test. It's really okay to ask questions about the lab test, getting clarification. So, use that to really help you navigate some of the things that come up in this class. So what's my question for this week, right? So you've already given me, oh, this is so funny. My, that's so funny. I don't know why, but my streaming. So actually one of the things that I do is I have, you know what, actually I'm just going to drop it and I'll talk to you about it another time, and you might hear a little bit on the mic. But I have a TV that I use behind me that I stream content from YouTube. And one of the things that I do is I like to watch a gamer who plays Stardew Valley because I learn a lot about watching them, right? So maybe this will be a good question of what's your favorite thing to stream, right? Or what is it that you enjoy consuming from a media perspective? Anyway, any of that. Have a great one. I'll talk to you later.